What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Tune-Up, a Shopmonkey podcast where we talk about the automotive industry and car care, specifically that 99% of a car's life that is spent outside of the dealership. In this episode, we discuss canned services and shop efficiency in a modern shop environment and why that's important and foundational in running a great shop. I'm Justin Simpson, and I'm joined by Zach Buffum, and the two of us, alongside the rest of the hooligans in this room, make up your tune-up team, all with various perspectives, insights, and passions about the car care industry, and we're super excited to talk to you today. What's up, Zach?
Dude, Justin, love the energy you're coming with today. Love it.
Thanks, man. It feels like it's been forever, but it hasn't. We're just trucking along and got a lot of cool things shaking.
Yeah, and how things get recorded and then posted later when people are listening. Who knows what day or time it is? Time's a relative thing.
It's sometime in the future right now, and we're all...
Welcome to Shopmonkey's existential episode. What is time and how does it work?
Yeah. But hey, let's start this off right. We got another round of nicknames here, and we're going to see if our panel can pick up on it.
I love it.
Starting off in pole position, P1, we have Lucas 2002 Conyer. What's up, man?
What's going on, everyone? I'm flattered. I've never been P1, so thank you.
Have you not?
Welcome to the lead, Lucas.
I'm very happy to be here. This is a good episode.
Watch your tail, man. Be careful.
That's right.
In that 2002, I got some tough competition behind me. So
here we go. P2, we have Gallagher 3.0 CSL Wilson.
How's it going?
Speaking of competition.
Okay. In P3, go ahead.
I was just gonna call. You guys really set me up for failure here in terms of P1 and the car you put me in.
Hey, it's yours to lose, man. Stop making excuses.
Yeah, dude. Hey, you got there. You got it. It's your job to keep it. In P3, we have Mike M1 Bordeaux. What's up, dude?
Hello. That's like a poster car, so I'm excited.
All right. Last but not least, P4, we have Jonathan E30 M3 Moretti.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah. Clearly we're talking BMW poster cars, race cars.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was Kia.
That was the last episode, Bordeaux. We were talking about
I've just been thinking about it this whole time, man. Just that crab walk got me. Just everything Kia.
Thank you for making me the E30, the most valued and sought after, but also the oldest actually piece of crap that you could. No, I'm just joking.
I was just about to the end. I was about to disagree. Like the M1 is like unobtainium. Like that's like the coolest car ever. Like Lucas said, I'm flattered. Thank you.
Yeah.
Moretti, leave it to you to complain about getting issued a BMW as your nickname. It's like, of all things, somehow, the 5 Series.
The 30 M3, the pinnacle
This
of
is a shop.
M3.
This is a shop podcast, and you need to know, no matter what you give me, I'm going to complain about it aggressively.
You should have called him the X5, man. Just really look into him, man.
Ugh.
All right, let's jump into our topic. So Justin kind of gave us a little taste about it, talking about canned services and the modern shop environment. But I think that we could definitely talk about that, but broaden it to efficiencies within the shops, like around those different processes and procedures that can really take maybe someone who started a shop or started working in a shop and is doing something because that's the way they've always done it, and they can't think outside of the box to really make their life so much easier to be able to focus on different things. We kind of touched on this briefly in different episodes, but I think it would be worth our time to really kind of hone in on this on different places where shops could be really efficient or have a couple ideas that they can go out and try.
Yeah, and I'd love to echo that in understanding specifically from the guys that have been in the shops, which pretty much everyone on this podcast has. Really, the impact that has for the shop and their profitability as well as the consumer, right? Because I think we're talking about efficiency that just affects so many different aspects of a shop's business, and canned service is definitely one of them.
Yeah. I'll start there. I think that there's a bunch of ways to tackle this, but the first one that came to my mind is thinking through, from like the owner and service writer points of view, right? There's a lot of things there's a lot of different areas that efficiency comes into play. If we're talking around, can services and kind of the admin or the office side of the shop, it's really common for me to talk to shop owners that are also very involved in the service writing. So the write-up of estimates, the dispatching of work to the technicians, all of that. And, for a lot of them, they're spending, when I'm talking to them, I'm hearing that they're spending a good part of their day shuffling paperwork, right? Writing estimates, calling for parts, checking on parts. And a big part of what they're missing in that, and a lot of the shop owners I talk to are aware of it, and they're like, hey, I don't have time to work on the business. I'm in it. I'm stuck doing paperwork and calling customers all day. And I don't ever have time to step back and look at the bigger picture, right? Marketing, how do I get more cars in here, right? All those things. I think that resonates with, I think, most of the shop owners I talk to. That's certainly true for some of the shops I've worked in, right? And so I think like the big idea there is like, how do we set things up to get, reduce the amount of time that's spent doing the paperwork and the shuffling of information around, right? Because it's really, with a good shop management system, most of that can be automated, simplified, and sped up to where that should be the bulk of your day. It should be the minority of your day, and the rest of your day as an owner is spent, on the business, right? Checking in with technicians, thinking strategically, figuring out marketing, things like that.
If I can hook into what you're saying, just because I think it's really important to zoom in on it, when we talk about, can services being an idea part of a digital efficiency in a tactile business. So the work we do, our hot take leads perfectly into this, because we're talking about buttons versus knobs, and then we're going from like a tactile business to a digital data infrastructure. The idea of, it's almost the what if scenario to me, because it's not about like, hey, embrace the logging of notes, the writing up of estimates, the assignments to your technicians. Not because today you need to do that. You could probably still like yell at a few people and do that, right? But it's the day that you are out sick, or the day that someone else is out sick, and there's a whole trail there. There's the day that the customer comes back and says you broke the vehicle, and you have an end-to-end conversation record with that customer, photos and videos of your inspections of the vehicle, right? It's embrace it, because the day you need it, it will really, really be there to help you. And that's one of the things that I want to get through in this idea, is it's not about necessarily, oh, well, I got through today fine. Of course you did. You're great at your job. Most of the people I talk to have built awesome, not computer systems, but systems of what they do in the building, that they are really good at keeping everything together. But it's the day you're not there, or the day you hire someone new, or the day someone's out. It's all those scenarios that will just steamroll everything you've done to be productive and efficient and fast, that will really become a major problem. And if you just do a little bit of front loading, it'll never happen.
I think one of the best things I heard about from somebody I worked with in a shop who used to run his own business and things like that. He was like, look, your job as a business owner, and I'm thinking specifically first from that persona, obviously efficiencies have got a bunch of stuff, but from the business owner's persona, your job is to replicate yourself, right? If you're really doing your job well, right, you should be training somebody to do that job. You should be, the paperwork, the note-taking, the documentation, right? And so you need to build a system. Like you said, you've built systems, right? It doesn't have to be software. It could be the way you handle your paperwork, whatever. But you need to build a system that you can plug someone else into for the day you're sick, for the day you decide to retire, right? A lot of that, again, from the shop owner's perspective, this is how you make your business valuable, right? If you decide to retire, for example, this is one instance. If you decide to retire and you are the one with all the knowledge in your head of how to write an estimate, how to price it, how to keep the business profitable, it's not worth very much when you leave, right? So it's crucial for you, if you want to set this up to be successful, it's something that you can pass on. Never mind what if you want to take a vacation or you have a sick day, heaven forbid. But if you want to be able to step out of that business someday and not be there 9 to 5 every day, you're going to have a system that someone else can plug into. And you've got to make that transition from being the person, moving the system along to teaching someone else how to do it. And that's where efficiency really becomes key, right? If you have a complex system with a lot of bits and pieces and things that have to be remembered, and what I was head knowledge, that's going to be hard to train someone on. If you have a system that you can automate a lot of that you can put that knowledge into a database, essentially, that's going to make it so much easier when it comes time for you to, take a vacation, leave, retire, hire a manager so you can step back or whatever it is.
Efficiency is an interesting word there, because I think it's a buzzworthy term of like efficiencies, right? But efficiencies can just mean, right? We talked about canned service. It can just be a skeleton of what you do when you do a certain type of job. That could be an efficiency, right? Efficiencies don't have to be these massive systems that like make everything easier and faster. Efficiencies can just mean having some good documentation, taking some good notes, having some photos and videos. Like those are all efficiencies for the time that comes when you do need that information. It's available to everyone in the business, as opposed to it's inefficient for me to have to go to Gallagher every time I have a question about what we're doing with this car. If I can just see that on the order, that's an efficiency.
But I'm hearing kind of two different, or not two different sides, but two main kind of pipes coming out of this other pipe. Man, oh boy, I don't know where I'm heading with that.
Just get out of there, Zach. Just keep going.
I'm gonna eject.
Power through.
Yes,
Power through.
yes.
Keep going. Mario movie, and I'm really into pipes now.
The analogies are great. I love them. Keep going.
It's the man. It really resonated with me when you said Gallagher's that the time that it takes to work on the business. I can run the business. I don't have the time to take that step back, and I'm wondering what's at the heart of that. Because let's be honest, like you're going to choose what's challenging in life. Or someone told me one time, pick your hard. It's hard to do things the same way. It's hard to change and do something new. Pick it. Which hard thing do you want to do, and what's going to help you out in the long term? It sounds like that whole concept of like, I don't know how to take a step back and figure out tactically what to do next. So I'm just going to double down on what I'm doing now because I know what I'm doing right now. Do you think that like that plays a vital component to it, or?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I think that's exactly it. I think that, and stepping again to that owner's persona, it's probably feels scary to step back, because now you've got to trust that someone else is going to do this the way you want it done. And that's where, like Jonathan's saying, having a framework, having a, if you want to call a skeleton or whatever, can service a standard way we write an estimate, literally some of the very procedural stuff that goes on in the shop. If you're worried about how that's going to happen, if you have to step back for a minute or a day, you haven't built enough of a system there. And I think that it's exactly what you're saying, Zach. It's hard to keep going, right? It's frustrating. It is hard to put in the effort to build that system. It takes work. There's no way around it. It's a front-loaded investment that you've got to, if you want to take that leap. I mean, like, and this is just the classic, like, I see where I want to go. How do I get there? Well, yeah, you've got to take the leap and you got to put the time in to get there. But once you do, knowing that it's going to pay off in giving you back freedom, giving back ability to go do the other things that you want to be doing as an owner, right? That could be working on the business. That could be taking a vacation. That could be stepping back and saying, I don't want to work in the business every day. I want to go.
Yeah. If I were to like tie that to like a real example, right? So, I ran a performance shop mostly. We did a lot of maintenance and repair, but we were known for our performance work. And one of the things I noticed, I mean, my first month there, was that the owner, he had all these builds separated into his personal emails, a lot of things that he just did that he knew how to do. And so, I mean, I just want to get tactical for a minute, right? What I did was, and I think the important thing for everyone thinking about this transition to a shop management platform, or just how you're going to run the business, I just tried stuff. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. You can't be afraid of that. It's great. You can always delete something if it didn't work. But I said, hey, send me the last 3 builds you did with customers, all of it, all the notes, all the emails, just forward it to me, right? So you keep building. I'm going to look at all this. And I built out, shout out to Shopmonkey. I built out these really sweet canned services that were like skeletons of those builds. And the places where I did what I would call like customer choice work was just like a placeholder line. You don't have to put a thing that might change, right? You can just put a placeholder that says do this. And now I could be, the owner and me could both not be in the building. Anyone at the business could say, add, build X to this ticket. And it literally writes A to Z what they need to take into consideration and what lines need to be discussed with the customer to fine tune the end result. And that was a performance build, right? But that would apply just the same as like, imagine, okay, I'm not a mechanic, so one of my guys who are actually technically skilled, give me something that's like a little harder than a brake job, but not like an engine replacement.
Oh, dude, classic was like, for me, was head gaskets, right? We did a lot of Subaru head gaskets. Yeah.
So Subaru head gasket, right? You could, even though that's a service job, you could still build out a set of tasks and lines that a day one guy could follow to build that up correctly. That's A, protecting the business if we're quoting it to a customer, but B, also helping guide them on what the steps are for them to take. When you start to think about what you can do, again, I come from Shopmonkey, so I am going to lean into that a little bit and say, like, we have this great like core return functionality where you actually assign that to a person. That's a line item that you can assign to a person. You may not charge the customer, but you can still build accountability with the team so that, okay, I know when I do this job, I have to do this, this, and this, and this, but I also have to box up this core and put it on the front returns table, right? And that the ability to play and evolve those things over time is a good example. I think there's a lot of other efficiencies and technical advancements we can talk about, but really it just comes down to like, hey, here's a checklist of how you do this job. This is how I want you to do it, and these are the things that aren't going to come from the OEM R&I instructions, but part of our business. I want this to be done along with this work as well.
Yeah, and I mean, go for it, Mike.
I was going to say, you talk about accountability. I mean, that's really what software is going to do a really good job of in general. We talk about an owner wanting to step away from their business for a second. You have no point of reference on a pay per ticket shop, right? You have to be there. You have to talk to the person that was there when the thing happened. So there's just no way to go back and 100% verify what happened and improve when things go wrong. And I think for a shop owner looking to, sell their business and move on, the people who are going to be looking or interested in buying your business, to Gallagher's point, I think they're probably our generation, maybe older, right? Millennials and older. The expectation's there to have some sort of system in place that they can replicate, or at least have as, again, a starting template, something to start with and then tweak and tune. And paper tickets are about as tweaked and tuned as they can get. Like, we've been doing it for a long time in the shop. There's really not any more efficiencies to be gained from that process. It's maxed out. So if you want to, get creative and find how to, bring something new into the automotive industry, I think you need something there that, you can get a workout in. You can do the repetition and test it and see if, you're sore afterwards or if you have a good burn,
Yeah.
And
work my quads or what?
If you're pulling on your shoulder and it feels like, you got to throw, this is a terrible analogy, you got to throw ice on it for
the analogy.
Mike, did something happen this week that you're not telling us about?
Are you okay?
Gallagher just got me on this exercise kick, just always getting that pump in. No, I don't work out, guys. So
I want to make sure. I don't want to cut you off, and I want to make sure Lucas jumps in. But I also think it's important. A couple of us have mentioned the idea of like systematizing the business, so there's an exit plan, like a selling it or retiring. I also want to be clear. If you want to open another location, if you don't have a system, one brain can only be spread so thin. You can't be driving back and forth if you want to grow your business and not necessarily exit it. The system also comes into play. Everything we're saying applies to that motion just as much as a retirement motion, just as much as a sell motion. So I just want to make sure we're not alienating anyone who's like, well, I'm in it. I just started. I don't care about selling it, right? Okay. Well, if you just started, set yourself up for success. If you're right in the middle and you got a long road ahead of you, same thing. You can still turn the train into a really efficient machine. Just wanted to call that out. Keep going, Mike.
I like your reference for the benefit of a canned service, having that starting template for someone who's just not familiar with. We've talked about service writers before. It's a generally difficult job. Most people don't, come out of high school with a plan to become a service writer, right? You fall into it most of the time. So it's kind of hard to get your feet or get your bearings when you first start out, right? There's a lot of things to learn very quickly and in a very fast-paced environment. So I think having a platform there, something visual to identify work in progress, right? The status of something, or to Moretti's point, a canned templated service to, keep me from having to bother my tech in particular, and make sure that I'm ordering everything that I need to. You want to talk about a hot topic. I think Gallagher, you probably back me up here. Moretti, probably you as well. It's really frustrating when you rely on a service writer to order parts, and then you have to follow up 6 times to make sure you get the right parts, right? Every single part that you wanted. So that starting template, right? You do it once. And for someone like myself working in a dealership where I pretty much work on the same cars all day, every day, right? So anytime I do an engine job, it's the same engine job pretty much every single time. Most of those parts are going to be the same. The pricing might adjust, and that's about it. So you do it once. It takes you half an hour the first time to build that service out, and then you save it and you go back to it, and you have something to, expedite the process next time. So,
yeah,
you guys definitely
touched on it a little bit, but it also plays into hiring and customer retention as well. Like how do you keep customers happy and coming back to you as well? And in terms of Moretti's example of opening up more shops, the actual time to get someone to a point where they feel comfortable writing this up and not going back to the shop every so often to write something up, to quote a customer and have that conversation, they're so focused on that part of the job that they're not connecting with the customers sometimes. And all I was going to bring up earlier is I just went through this week. I need a tire rotation and a alignment on my 4Runner, and going on a road trip, definitely waited a little too long. Everyone's booked up by me, and I kind of took it as an opportunity to call some shops, and I didn't really pre-plan it for this episode, but I'm not going to name any shops, but I also called some dealers. And funny enough, the independent shops I called gave me an answer, a quote, and a time frame quicker than any dealership that I called in the area. They just don't have any time to take me because they're booked out for 2 weeks. Funny enough, the 2 dealerships I called have plenty of availability, but I was on the phone for about 5 to 10 minutes to get a quote on how long it's going to take.
Ain't no one got time for that.
But tire rotation and a balance, and it was hey, hang on, I need to go speak to a technician in the back of the shop to let me know how long and how much that's going to cost. And
on
so
a 4Runner?
Yeah, for a tire rotation. I'm sorry, a tire balance.
This is North Carolina dealers that we're talking about here.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, no, I think
let's not focus on the state. All right, we're gonna focus on
Lucas doesn't want to.
As a new North Carolina resident, I do not want to. Not me.
No,
Lucas,
yeah,
I do not want to alienate my fellow North Carolinians.
all of that to say, though, me as the customer in this position, I was kind of amazed at how professionally and quickly the independent shops were able to answer my question and get me a quote, and it wasn't the same experience at the dealership. So that's all to say that if someone's looking into this, you don't really have to start really complex packages and procedures, starting with just the basics of even tire rotations, balancing, alignment, having that all built out to where someone, to Mike's point, coming out of high school or maybe new into the field, can look at it. And Mike, I love what you do in some examples in Shopmonkey of like writing up a little description of why this is important or what can be mentioned to the customer over the phone. If someone pulls that up and has a little blurb in there that's already been kind of predetermined by whomever is running the shop, that can go so far with a customer of saying, wow, this shop is extremely knowledgeable, quick with turnaround on getting me pricing and timing. I'm going to keep coming back to them. But it all starts with everything that's been mentioned.
A modern platform with the ability to like just enter text and build value around the job you're providing to the customer is so undervalued. I think if you can show a customer with a little blurb about what they're getting, when so often you get this like weird hieroglyphics of an estimate of like all these codes and then a huge price tag. And then it's like, whereas a modern platform, you can write it up, you can say what that work entails. You can do that work once and save it, right? So you don't have to type it up every time. But I think it just goes such a long way to folks who don't know what they're paying for to build value in that estimate and that process. Like, oh, clearly they're doing a lot. Yeah, I wouldn't do that for less than what they're saying here. So
yeah.
I think it helps a lot.
I know we were talking a lot about the basic canned services and kind of building those foundational elements. And I also, one thing that came to mind to me is one of our customers, Levity Vance, right? And they build like these really high end, very expensive, very intricate outdoor adventure vans. And, these guys are spending hours and hours building out an estimate for every single product because there's 1,000 things that they do, across a multi-month build to make this thing happen. And the amount of time that takes, and then having to remember and pull up the spreadsheets and all the other details of every single build, all of the parts that need to be ordered, and connecting all those dots manually. I mean, I know that's an opposite extreme, but when we're talking about more complex work to be done, you almost can't survive without having that process and that efficiency. You're pretty much setting yourself up for failure if you are not thinking further enough ahead to like build out these step-by-step processes. And obviously we're representing Shopmonkey, and we do all that within our platform. And there are opportunities to like level into that. Even I think maybe Moretti, you mentioned just starting with a template in a spreadsheet, and having to work through that and get familiar with like planning these core services that you're offering in your.
I mean, I'll call
business.
out, you don't. If you have a good shop management platform, you don't need a spreadsheet. We can help get you out of spreadsheets, but have to say it.
Yes,
no, but you're absolutely right, and I think you're right also. As it, don't worry about the fact. I'm talking to the listener. Hello, listener. Don't worry about the fact of like Levity Vans having these huge multi-month builds, and where that might not apply to your services, that your in and out services, because it applies the same, right? It just gets levels of complexity harder, but the ideals are the same, right? Is how much as labor gets more expensive, as parts get more expensive, the margins to be profitable get smaller. So how can you cut out the time you're spending like just writing things up? That's a lot. That's labor. You don't think about that. You don't line item it. But yeah, if you were trying to rewrite those multi-month builds every time a new one came in, there's no way you're making money on those builds by the time you factor in the cost of the person. Even as a business owner, you don't think about maybe your own salary or your own pay, but it costs your business money for you to be sitting there writing things up. So yeah, I think, don't leave that money on the table.
Totally. I think that's key. I think that Lucas, you brought up, to tie back to what something Lucas was saying, which, I think it's key to understand, is the customer experience, right? So, and it kind of dovetails those, both what you're saying, Jonathan, and what Lucas was saying, right? A lot of what the biggest, I think one of the other big benefits of this, I'm not going to say it's the biggest, but might be, is that if you're that shop that has, these can benefit from these efficiencies being built into your software, right? Whether it's canned services, a quick way to write estimates, you're going to land more customers, right? So, case in point, Lucas, you probably end up having to go to a dealer or something like that because the independent shops were full because you didn't plan far enough out.
Going to tomorrow morning.
Okay, but right, if you had been able to get on the calendar and your timing had worked out, you probably would have been more inclined to go to the independent shop because of how 100%. Fast they were to give an answer. You can see just there's a level of customer service that's going to be different there, and you can.
I actually didn't want to go to the dealership.
Totally.
That's the funny part. I left them for the last call because I was more inclined to go to an independent shop that I trusted or had, pretty good reviews based off of, local kind of recommendations and whatnot.
By the way, as Shopmonkey's enterprise solutions engineer, we're not trying to bash dealers too hard. I mean, hey, that's something you need to help, but I just, there's clearly some deficiencies we can help you with.
But I'm saying is put yourself in the customer's shoes, right? Where are you going to go? Where you're going to go to the place that can give you the information you want the fastest and gives you the perception that they're going to serve you best. And I think that, again, putting my former service writer hat here, one of the challenges I faced, and every service writer that I've ever talked to can relate to this, is you're being pulled 6 different directions, right? So techs need you to order parts, fix things on work orders. The owner wants you for something, and the customers are still calling on the phone. Well, if I have to tell a customer who calls on the phone for a quote, say they've never called before, hey, I'll look that up. I'll get back to you in an hour. You know what they're going to do in that hour? They're going to call 3 other shops. And by the time I call them back, odds are they're booked somewhere else. If I can if I can confidently look at my skeleton framework for a canned service or pull up a quick, snapshot of labor and parts, which plug, those are all things we can do in Shopmonkey. If I can pull that up on the phone and give them at least a ballpark and say, hey, look, I'm going to need to see your car, but here's the starting point. Here's the range we'll be looking in. Can we get you on the schedule to take a look and inspect it? Right. You've got a much better shot of landing that business. Right. And it's sort of first mover advantage is big here, right? If you're the first person to give them the information they're looking for, they're probably going to come to you. Freeing up the service advisor's time so they're available to take that phone call, so they have that information at their fingertips, is crucial in continuing to bring in those new customers. And I think that as we see, consumers, we were talking about this with the CarPlay stuff too, consumers set what's going to happen, right? They have an expectation. Well, Amazon Prime and Uber has set this expectation for consumers in the last 10, 15 years that they can get information on what they want very quickly. And the best shops going forward are going to be the ones that can provide that information and capitalize on that. And that's where efficiency really starts to come into play. It is partly what you're saying, Jonathan, which is cost of labor and your time doing it, but it's freeing up your time so you're available to reach those new customers too.
I think again, when we're talking about efficiencies, right? So I want to go nuts and bolts. Like, so there's canned services, right? Which you can build out, packaged work templates. But when you look at the ability to write up what that work entails, that's more information your customer is going to get that you don't have to. I don't want to automate away the relationship between a service writer and a customer, because that relationship is important. But I do want to automate away the 45 minutes of talking about what does this work entail. Well, we can put all that in the notes. Template-based messaging where you get the same question every time you write up this job. So you have a couple of responses ready to go. And again, I don't want to automate away the relationship, but the description of technical information we should be able to just, template that out, shoot it out. So we can inform, hey, this is what we do. Why do we do, the gaskets this way, whatever, I'm just making something up, but you can shoot that information off without having to be bogged down in those dense pieces every time. And it just goes into, I just want to make sure we're covering that connects to things beyond canned services. That's template-based messaging. That's DVIs. That's how dare you interrupt me?
Yeah, totally dropped the ball, man.
But all those things, that's.
No, I think that's my point is that the automation frees up the time. And that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. You're saying much better. The automation frees up the time for the relationship. And the relationship is what continues to drive and grow the business, right? So if you can automate the stuff that is necessary for the relationship to go well, but you give the service provider that time back to continue building the relationship, I think that's key.
Yeah, relationship building is like the biggest benefit, I think. And it's easy for us to talk about canned services and everyone think, more transactional, right? You can just push out more things on a quote faster. And that's true. You're not going to win a customer's business doing that. You're going to immediately turn them off. And I think by automating some of these things, right, you're getting to this point, I think, you're giving your service writer time to do what they do best. And that is to understand what the customer wants, right? Like, okay, you brought this thing to me that you probably cherish, right? It's not a cheap purchase, especially right now. Take good care of my car, right? So for a service writer to have enough time to stare at the customer and persuade them that we are the professionals, we are going to take care of your car, we're going to stay in touch with you, and we're going to be efficient and giving you everything that you need, right? I think software is going to give you a lot of opportunity to find that extra time. And then when it comes to making recommendations, right? You don't have that history on pen and paper. So if you want a surefire way to, have a customer never come back to your shop, recommend an air filter twice after they say no. They will never come back every time, right? Like it's just like, you told me that last time, you're just trying to rip me off now, right? Or a fuel service, or insert whatever recommendation. They might actually need it, right? But because my service writer or my technician didn't have access to any sort of frame of reference from the last time they came in the shop, my customer feels like it's just a transactional conversation, not a relationship that we're building. So I think
I've been in like dealer franchise level establishments, hearing someone say, "Oh, I talked to so-and-so about this. Nobody knows what it was." And then they quote them something almost similar but separate. It's like, well, that's not what so-and-so said. And you're right. I think that happens one time and that person's never going to come back to that business, because it's like, well, clearly they don't know what they're doing. A, they don't know what they're doing. B, someone's scamming me because this one's different than the last one. So it's like, it's insane.
Yeah, I just want to say this group is amazing, only because the whole time you guys were talking, you hit so many points that I was specifically the transactional part that I wanted to just touch on that really quickly. And it's just maybe not apples for apples, but when I worked at Apple and we worked, oh, wow, didn't plan that one.
Low hanging fruit, man.
So
one of the things.
Genius.
Genius, good one. One of the big things at the Genius Bar was that not so much talking about the actual service and what's going on. It was trying to build that relationship with the customer. Hey, how's your week? What are you doing this weekend? How's this been? How was your last weekend? Getting into those conversations, and you bring it over to this industry. If someone were to ask me over the phone, well, really cool, what are you guys doing over the weekend? And if they knew I was going on a road trip, there's something to be based off of that to say, hey, maybe we could check out the spark plugs for you as well. Make sure everything's, working good and running the way it should be so that you don't have anything that comes up on that road trip. And so maybe not on that first call, but with these efficiencies, with everything we've talked about, it builds out that time to be able to have those conversations and those connections. And there's nothing better than good customer service. Even wherever you go, if there's good customer service, it just always leaves such a memorable experience. And this really, all of it, just gives your team and gives the shop a little more time to focus on that. And that can set apart one shop to the next. That was just my final thought.
I think it's really important. I think you hit the nail on the head, Lucas, and kind of putting a bow on the relationship piece. And I think to tie it back to when we talked about you own this business, are you working in the business or are you working on the business? Catchphrase, hashtag catchphrase. But I think when I was managing my shop, my job was to make sure that my team was alleviated from the stresses that made them interact with customers poorly. That's part of my job. And I think if you provide tools to move quickly and efficiently, you're alleviating the pressures on the service writer to be constantly digging into data instead of building those relationships with customers. And I do think that's your job. Allow them the freedom and the space to breathe, to be a good human when they're talking to people at the desk, right? I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm taking away so much from this conversation. And Zach, I'm not sure, like we get the pleasure in co-hosting this podcast that we get to just like sit and soak in all of this knowledge from this discussion. And I just love to like quickly hear your, top 2 takeaways or so from being just there listening and hearing the core group talk about this.
Yeah, there were so many great examples of different efficiencies and things to try, and I think this kind of dovetails to one episode we've done previously. Is pick one, pick 2, try it. If it works out for you, fantastic. Build on that. If it doesn't, okay, no big deal. Try something different. Kind of what Gallagher's really hit on in the beginning is that perspective is like, it's important to work for the now, but it's more important to work for the future. So what efforts are you doing right now that's going to build you a better tomorrow? I think Disney said that. Did Disney say something? That sounds like someone said that.
If they did, then it's a perfect one, because that time spent now gives you so much benefit in the future. And that's what I'm taking away as well. And we help you do that, right? Shopmonkey helps you do that as a shop owner. So if you're out there and you're struggling to find these efficiencies and you feel like you're just working in your business over and over again, come talk to us, because that's what we strive for here. And there's plenty of ways to do that, but we definitely make it a lot easier. So I'm coming away appreciating all the complexities that comes into running an auto repair shop and the challenges that small businesses face that really we're destined to help solve. So that's pretty cool to hear us like flag and identify some of those different challenges and discuss them in this podcast. So if you haven't been with us before, this podcast is brought to you by Shopmonkey, and we are your digital solution for car care in shops across America. And if you're interested in learning more about us, please check out our website, shopmonkey.io or shopmonkey.com, and you can also click on the link in our description below. So we'd love to hear from you. If you've watched this podcast from end to end, If you're a car owner, is this stuff interesting to you? Did you know like the complexities that goes behind the scenes in operating a shop? Have you experienced a really well-functioning independent shop or a really ill-functioning dealership? Like, tell us about it. Let's get into a discussion. If you're a shop owner out there, are you using software today? Are you using canned services? How does that help you run your business? We want to know more. We want to talk to you. Please share your stories with us in the comments below. That's it for now. This is the Tune Up Podcast. Thank you so much for watching us and listening to us. And, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. We all hope you have a great day. Cheers.
Adios.